Welcome to the Sooners 360 Recruiting Podcast, a podcast for OU recruiting fans by Sooners 360. Each week, we catch you up on the latest in OU recruiting news and provide opinions and evaluations on all things OU football recruiting. I'm Chris Mason, lead recruiting analyst for Sooners 360. This podcast is now sponsored by Sooners 360 on Patreon. To support this podcast, please go to patreon.com/Sooners360817 and click subscribe. It's only $2 a month. There's also a free trial option, and that's where I'm posting all of my regular recruiting content. That link will also be in the show notes. Also, this podcast is now part of the Believe podcast family, every team, every topic, everywhere. I'm also appearing on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock Central with the Horns Down podcast and the Hall of Fame podcast with Jason Watkins, and the Horns Down podcast with Chris with a K. And we're discussing OU season. We're doing Thursday night shows, preview shows on Thursday night, and then on game day, a couple hours afterwards, we're doing post-game, kind of a post-game roundtable about OU's efforts. So you can find me there. Also on Monday nights, Chris with the K and I are doing a quick podcast about recruiting. That's a live stream event you can find on my YouTube channel. If you subscribe to my YouTube channel, you'll be notified about that whenever they occur. And that's a chance for you guys to, the Q&A, the live streams have a Q&A opportunity. So that's your chance if you ever want to just ask me some recruiting questions and ask what's going on about recruiting. If you have a specific recruiting question, you can join that chat and ask me your recruiting questions, and I will try to give you an answer. So lots of content during the week. So 3 podcasts where you can catch me, 2 specifically about recruiting, and then 2 others about OU season. So please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like I said, just go to youtube.com, search for Sooners 360, and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you're listening to me on iTunes, et cetera, you can also subscribe to the audio version of the podcast. It's still going on, still definitely happening. So both avenues available for you to get your recruiting fix. So this is episode 139, Full QB Reset. So I was hoping this podcast was going to be 20 minutes of me talking about Peyton Houston and what OU had acquired in terms of a quarterback verbal commitment on Monday. But late Sunday night, started appearing that OU was actually trailing in that recruitment after being the projected winner all week before. Houston visited for the Michigan game. Everything seemed good. He was going to the LSU-Florida game, and that seemed to be not a courtesy visit, but something along the lines of him just kind of going to LSU, wanted him to visit to give LSU one last shot. But the longer relationship, the emphasis in recruiting seemed to all align with OU. But Sunday night, it leaked out that he apparently LSU's recruiting pitch on Saturday was hit the spot. And Peyton Houston on Monday morning, as anticipated, there was no real drama about it at all. Committed to LSU. A little bit of a shock there. And as the title of the podcast indicated, it kind of requires a full reset of OU's recruiting efforts for 2027 from a quarterback standpoint. Now, OU had only offered 2 quarterbacks in 2024, coming out of the summer session, the same session where Jaden O'Neal verbaled. That didn't work out. But they also, Seth Luttrell offered Peyton Houston and Trey Taylor. Trey Taylor's a quarterback from Chicago area. And Trey verbaled to Nebraska. And it didn't seem like when Sarbuckle took over, there was any real connection there. Trey put out a top 5, didn't list OU. And OU didn't seem to be making much of a push there. So that's the only other true, there are obviously talented quarterbacks in the 2027 class, but OU wasn't really tracking on them. Well, that's all changed now because Peyton Houston's going to LSU. And I got to admit, I'm a little surprised that LSU went in this direction. They have Colton Nussmeier, fairly, I think they're a big leader there. I think that's probably fair to say. He's obviously the brother of their current quarterback. And also, LSU had been really high and chasing Elijah Haven, another Louisiana quarterback who's ranked number 1 in the country by most services. And although he's projected to go to Florida, or at least has been for a couple of months, I'm not really sure you can really project anyone going to Florida right now with Billy Napier's. Well, he's got a tough road ahead. He's at Miami. He's got Texas. He's got LSU. He's got Georgia. He's got Tennessee. His schedule is pretty weighted and loaded. He rallied last year, but I'm just not sure I see a rally coming this year. DJ Lagway seems to be maybe even worse off than Arch Manning. At least Arch isn't hemorrhaging turnovers left and right. So I'm surprised that LSU kind of made this move for Peyton Houston a little bit. I don't know. And Peyton Houston, there's been a lot of stories that LSU wants to sign 2 quarterbacks in this class. OU fans, you know my feelings on that after the whole Jaden O'Neal, Bo Bentley, chase, debate, whatever you want to call it. I just don't think that works. It doesn't work. It's not sustainable, especially from an NIL standpoint. And then you're just driving one of those kids to be in the portal after 1 year. So maybe LSU told Peyton he's their only quarterback. And now they'll back off Colton Nussmeier, Elijah Haven, and any of their other targets. So perhaps that was the thing that put them over the top. Don't know that for a fact. Don't have an LSU source telling me anything. Or Houston is maybe fine with being in a 2 quarterback class, despite the strong sense was that he was not interested in doing that. So, and maybe it's just as pure, and maybe they just put a big NIL package and they'll deal with the Q2 quarterback thing later, and they're just determined to not lose another quarterback to Oklahoma. LSU was really sort of stunned and surprised that Bo Bentley chose OU. I think that kind of stings a little bit. Obviously, they lost Bryce Underwood to Michigan. So maybe they were just like, we can't lose a 3rd quarterback in a row. We're going to lock down Houston, and he's going to be our guy. Don't have any other real explanations to that. Or maybe Houston all along has just really wanted LSU to say, we love you, kid, and was able to just flip. That was all it took. So regardless, Houston's with LSU right now. And OU needs to find another quarterback. So where does that reset leave us? What are some potential names of some potential targets? So the only quarterback that we know has been to Norman and thrown for Ben Arbuckle. We believe this has happened. It was reported by Sooner Scoop and at OU Insider back before they were part of Rivals. Is Malachi Ziegler, who's also from Louisiana. Louisiana has like 4 or 5, top 200 type quarterbacks. It's kind of a ridiculous. It's a ridiculous bounty of quarterback talent. And Malachi Ziegler's like 6'3", 6'4", 200 pounds, big arm, mobile. Very talented. But SMU and Baylor have been making him a serious focus. And OU hasn't offered him, so they'd have to jump in with an offer and start battling those 2 schools, which they can certainly do. And certainly, I think we'll see several offers go out in the next 2 weeks. I think you'll see OU focus on the Auburn game, and then in the bye week, Arbuckle has a chance to sit down with Nagy Coach Coos and Arbuckle have a chance to sit down with Nagy and his staff, and Nagy and his staff can present some scouting evaluations, film guys on film that they want to pursue. So Malachi Ziegler could be one of those names. The number one guy in Texas is Kavion Bryant, who I think was leaning to Texas, but Texas Tech is making a big push. I watched his film from his sophomore year. He's very smooth, mobile, good arm, playmaker. I wouldn't be shocked if OU doesn't throw their name at least make it the offer and see where he is. Then a name I got sent on one of the Monday Q&As was Weston Nielsen from Louisiana, another Louisiana quarterback. He's 6'2", 195 pounds, mobile, good arm, playmaker. Somebody you should definitely probably kick the tires on. The LSU thing has probably made Colton Nussmeier available. Maybe OU kicks the tires there. He's from Flower Mound. So obviously a school OU's familiar with. Maybe they can get him in. But I would say it's probably too soon to get anybody in for the Auburn game. Although, we might find out Monday that's different. But I would say OU should be targeting the Ole Miss game. Kent State, they could bring somebody in if they want to. It's not a great game day experience. But if you wanted to bring in a couple of quarterbacks and Arbuckle might have a little more time to spend with somebody, that's a possibility. And then the Ole Miss game after the Texas game would be probably where you could bring some other players in and see where you are. It'll be interesting to see. Josh McCuistion on Sooner Scoop on his article reference to quarterback. I'm not going to mention the name. It's on their pay site. It's on their it's behind their paywall. Going to respect that. But the kid was a name I hadn't heard about, and he's got a live arm, playmaking, good sophomore tape. And maybe this is a situation where OU just decides that they're going to wait and see the junior tape and then make some offers, or wait a couple more weeks, try and get some kids in for Ole Miss or Missouri or LSU, and take a look at midseason tapes at the quarterbacks and then decide where they are. Use this opportunity to reset, to look at more film, do more evaluations. Because if there's anything right now that you could possibly say about QB recruiting, it's that the class of 23, the five-star class, is kind of going splat against the wall. So is that due to poor evaluations? Is that due to poor development? It's really hard to tell, but maybe, just maybe, Bo Bentley, OU, wasn't a quarterback I was talking about during fall of his junior year. He wasn't a guy on my radar. It wasn't until he showed up at the Navy All-American game, played great there when he seemed to elevate after his state championship win, and then the Navy game, he sort of rose up and all of a sudden was a big-time target. So that was after his junior year. So maybe Arbuckle is going to keep an eye on some film and then make a determined effort mid-season, something like that, make some offers, and then fine-tune what he's going to do in terms of his targets at quarterback. He has a chance to just sort of reset for a month to get more film, get most of those players halfway through their junior year, look at film, get some scouting reports, and then make a decision. So I think that probably makes a lot of sense. I could see them offering Bryant and Ziegler in the next 2 to 3 weeks, if that's where they want to go, just to get those offers in, because they are so highly ranked. But after that, I think we may see a surprising name, and we could see a Bo Bentley-like junior year evaluation, and that's where OU targets instead. So UCLA fired their coach, as we all know. And UCLA had actually had a pretty good recruiting class on the books. Deshaun Foster was doing a good job bringing prospects in and getting verbal commitments. They had a number of high 3-star, 4-star guys. Maybe the highest guy in the class, there's some debate. There's a good defensive end from the Massachusetts area they got a verbal from. But they have an offensive tackle from Bradenton, Florida, Johnny Jones, 6'7", 6'6", 300 pounds plus, who's now back on the market. He's a top 100 guy. Would make sense with OU's connections in Florida, in the Bradenton area, that they would, and they offered Johnny apparently. I don't think I knew that, but they didn't need to re-offer him. And now he's back on the market. OU is pushing heavily. Well, I think OU will push heavily for an official visit. He's given a couple of interviews where he's opened things back up, and he's obviously, anytime an offensive tackle of his quality comes back on the market, his potential, a lot of teams are going to be involved. So FSU probably needs another tackle. OU definitely needs another tackle. So we'll see how this shakes out. But OU obviously has, like I said, they've got Kent State, they've got Ole Miss, they got Missouri, and they got LSU. So they have weekends where they can host players and, make a big push. So hopefully Johnny Jones sets up that official visit. And we're able to report on that in the next week or two on a podcast when he's possibly coming in. So it's Auburn weekend. It's not going to be as big a weekend as Michigan, which would be just technically impossible with 100 kids. But OU is targeting some other visitors. So official visitors, 2026 kids, because obviously 2027 kids can't take official visits until next April. 2028 kids aren't anywhere near taking official visits. So OU's got 2 flip candidates and at least 2 verbal commitments are coming in. Maybe more will, but these 2 guys have confirmed on Twitter they're coming in. I think Bo Bentley will probably be at every OU home game that he can make. That's just a guess. I think definitely he'll try and make this game based upon one of the visitors that's coming in. So the 2 flip candidates that I've been talking about a bunch. The first one is Jacob Curry, the linebacker from Miami. Now, when OU offered him, everyone was like, why are you offering this low 3-star kid who's, he's going to Northwestern? This is, what is OU doing? That we're still somehow in this 3-star scouting evaluation complaint mode from our fan base who are tracking recruiting, but not really, who think they're following recruiting. And I don't think they've picked up on it or learned yet that go look at the film. So that's what I did. And I've talked about Jacob Curry before. His film's excellent. It's physical, sideline to sideline, will linebacker. He could possibly be a cheetah in the OU scheme. He's good in coverage, good in run support, just an athlete, long frame, good wingspan. He's 6'1", 207, 208 right now. That's what he told me when I asked him. He was nice enough to reply back to me. So thanks, Jacob, for that. Appreciate that. And he's now got offers from Miami, Auburn, and Ohio State. So, and he's been reevaluated by rivals, and now they've put him in their top 200. I think he's like 158 in the country. So let's just stop the 3-state U nonsense and just recognize that the OU coaching staff knows how to make evaluations. Several of the recruiting services thought Cortland Guillory was a 3-star, high 3-star. They thought Torrey Blaylock was not a top 100 player in the nation. They thought he was a low 4, high 3 type player. So let's just bury that. Brian Harris looks great on film. Matthew Nelson has been moved into a 4-star territory by rivals. Daniel Norman is a 4-star on rivals. I think Noah Best, Tyler Ruxer, Ryder Mix, these guys should all be 4-stars. They should all be in like the top 300 area. The rankings are just a mess right now with the rivals on 3 merger. 247 seems to just not like some of the OU evaluations. I don't know why. and ESPN just hasn't evaluated kids. A lot of the kids, when you look at the new Rivals top 300 and their new movers into the top 300, every one of them is like not rated by ESPN. ESPN hasn't evaluated these kids. So the composite rankings are kind of a mess, to be honest. I'm not really sure what weight, if anything, you should really give them. But that's what the websites push. That's what they push on Twitter, on X. That's what the fans are talking about. So we'll continue to talk about them. But Jacob Curry obviously has gone from, why are we offering this guy, to, oh, look, he's a 4-star. We've got to grab him. So we'll see how that works. He's visiting OU this weekend. OU's been heavily involved with him weeks ahead of Ohio State and some of these other schools. So maybe that will help. I'd anticipate he's going to take at least 1 or 2 other official visits, just since he decommitted Northwestern, so he can now take as many official visits as he wants. So we'll see what happens there. But I think OU will make a compelling linebacker recruiting pitch to him this weekend. Hopefully he's watching the OU linebackers make plays all over the field against Auburn. So we'll see where Jacob Curry is. Not anticipating a verbal commitment, but at linebacker is somewhere where Brent could obviously can make a significant recruiting message that could put OU over the top. Let's just leave it at that. Then Braden Allen, the wide receiver from Louisiana, is visiting. He's the Tulane commit. Really good film, really productive wide receiver. Would be a good third edition at wide receiver to give OU a 3 wide receiver class. He's probably a little undervalued right now. He's a high 3. A lot of schools looking at him, Arkansas, Ole Miss. A lot of the SEC programs starting to look at him. No sign LSU is, so that's a good sign. But I do worry that he has a breakout senior year, and LSU at the last minute decides they want to offer and poach him, just because that's the way LSU in-state recruiting goes. But he's coming on campus. I think there's a good chance that OU can flip him and get a commitment from him in a reasonable time frame after this official visit. Then also coming for his official visit, I believe it's his official, we'll see, I know he's coming, is James Tank Carrington. And he was the only verbal commit who wasn't able to come to the Michigan game. So James is back on campus. He is having an excellent start to his senior year, putting up really good stats. I'm hoping his huddle film from his new school in California will go up fairly soon. I keep trying to keep an eye on it. So I'll be interested to see him. If nothing else, there should be some photos with him with other recruits around Todd Bates and Coach Venables. So maybe we'll get a better idea about how big he looks and if he's put weight on and kind of size him up a little bit, since the height weight thing was a little bit of a confusion. The whole, well, he's 6'2", 240. What's going on? We'll get a chance to see him, from social media, hanging out with some recruits we know, and we'll get a better idea. Maybe just okay. He looks like he's, his frame looks big. He looks like he's not. That's not a 240-pound kid. We'll get a little bit of a better feeling on that. At least one other verbal, as I mentioned, I'm sure Bo Bentley will be on campus, but he just hasn't confirmed that on social media. But we are going to have a return visit from their new wide receiver commit, who was unable to come to the Michigan game. I think he was sick. I think that's what I heard somewhere. I think OU Insider mentioned that he was not feeling well. So it's just to recap, it's Xavier Okafaleze. Hopefully I've got that pronunciation close enough that his family's not too insulted. And he should be on campus. I don't think Daniel McMorris will be back on campus. OU didn't offer him after the Michigan game. I think they're still working that. Texas Tech is obviously a threat for McMorris as well. But they also just got a verbal commitment from offensive tackle Bryce Gilmore, who decommitted from Arkansas and went with Tech. So maybe OU's, probably looking at something, would you take Johnny Jones and Daniel McMorris, or would you just take one? I don't know. I think OU needs 4 guys in this class. They need another interior guy, someone who can play offensive guard, because I think the need to immediately have Noah Best enroll early and start playing center is key for the Sooners. They need a Noah Best to be a center from the hop. So that leaves the interior guard positions kind of open. I think they should find another guy. No signs of any offers there yet, but I think between now and December, we'll see OU bring in an interior guy and make an offer. So Daniel McMorris, we'll see what happens there. So unofficial visitors, 2027 kids. So I'm stuck here a little bit. 2027, the main kid who's confirmed is Devion Bickham from McAllister, who doesn't have an OU offer. He's a 6'4" wide receiver. His film's pretty good. I don't know if OU's going to make an offer there with all the other 2027 offers they have made, but he's going to be on campus. There are a bunch of other names mentioned by Colin Kennedy on OU, the 247 OU site. It's on his paywall. He has a list of significant names that, if they were on campus, would be big wins. I won't spoil any of the names. That's not fair to Colin. He's worked hard getting that scoop list, getting that list out, being first and best with a good list. So, but there are 3 or 4 top 200 OU offer top 200 national type guys on the list. If all the guys that Colin projects make it to Norman, it'll be a much bigger weekend than I anticipated, with some really top flight talent coming back to Norman and visiting Norman probably for the first time, kind of a combination of the two. So keep an eye out for that. 3 big in-state 2028 guys have mentioned that they're coming. The first is Camion Nero Compton, or is it Compton Nero? I might have that flipped. Let me check real quick. I don't want to have that name wrong again. Because he's coming. He's obviously one of the big-time visitors. Yeah, sorry, I flipped it. It's Camion Compton Nero. I have to fix my notes there. Sorry about that. The athlete from Rejoice Christian, the same school as his teammate, Xavier Okafuleze. They seem pretty tight. This will be the second game Nero that Camion Compton Nero's come down for. He's an athlete, quarterback right now, wide receiver, cornerback, depends where he goes. He's an elite looking athlete. He probably will be in 2 years, we may be talking about him in a 5-star kind of category. Then another guy who has an OU offer. It's David Thomas from Stillwater. He's kind of a slot receiver, speedy, really good, had a big freshman year, has offers from a lot of schools. Getting him in to visit, really good news for OU. Let me check and see where David's got a national profile. Let me check on 3 here real quick. Yeah, all right. Let's see. Yeah, so Rivals has David Thomas as the number 83 player in the nation. So he and Camion Compton Nero are going to probably be battling for the number 1 position in state right now, at least right now. 2028 doesn't look like 2027 in terms of overall talent, but they're even early right now. OU's made a number of offers, so it's going to look pretty good. So, so he's like, number 83 in the nation, number 1 in Oklahoma, number 14th wide receiver in the country. So, and then OU has Terrence Evans visiting. He's also a in-state prospect at defensive tackle. Let me see if he has a profile up. Yeah, they have him as a 3-star right now. Yeah, so Terrence Evans is he's from Union. He's a big defensive tackle. He is 6'3", 320 right now. Has an OU offer, would be a nose guard supreme for OU. He's at Tulsa Union. OU recruits Tulsa Union well. Devon Jordan is from Tulsa Union. So just as an example. So getting him on campus is that's a nice get for OU to bring him back on campus. So you've got probably three of the top 5 guys for 2028 on campus for the Sooners. That's good. Getting these guys, both getting Contanera back again, getting David Thomas from Stillwater in Norman is good. And like I said, Terrence Evans coming down from Tulsa. So that's 3 good 2028 guys. I'm sure there will be some other 2028 players that will visit. It's probably in-state guys. OU will probably extend some offers, see who else in-state is interested in visiting. But from that standpoint, right now, those are the names that have come out that I know have OU offers that are on the OU radar. We'll see some other names will probably pop up, and OU obviously extends offers to kids beyond just extends visits and unofficial tickets and visit opportunities to more than just their offer group, especially for 2028 and 2029. We'll probably see some 2029 kids show up as well, but tracking high school freshmen is not exactly easy at this point. OU's made 2 new offers. The first one is to Brooks Backo. He's 6'5", 205 pounds. He's a tight end wide receiver for 2027. I'm not sure where he fits in the big tight end mix, but they certainly offered him. And then they offered King Pitts, who committed to Texas, then didn't seem to understand that he had committed to Texas. And then he got offers from Oregon and OU, and I think they both explained to him, hey, are you committed to Texas? And I think he was like, well, yeah, well, actually, I think he just thought an offer meant that he had to commit or something like that. So he's a big defensive tackle, defensive end kind of looking kid, 6'5", 250, 260. By the time he's a high school senior, he could be, 280, 290 easily in terms of that. Let me see if he's got a recruiting profile up on 3. He does. So they're saying he's 6'5". They're calling him the number 56 player in the nation, according to 247. And his profile is he's 6'5", 250, 260, something like that. So he's someone to track in terms of 2028 players. Other than that, it's like I said, we'll have more Auburn information for you guys next week based upon who confirms they're visiting and has the interviews where they say they've actually showed up. The 2 players to watch are obviously Jacob Curry and Braden Allen. Could see some action with them early after the weekend. Some return 2027 kids if they visit again, if some kids who visited from Michigan make their way back up to Norman again for Auburn, if it's another big weekend for OU. Could I see somebody could we see another 2027 commitment? Yeah, I think that's possible. I definitely think with some of the names coming up and some of the guys OU's involved with, I think that's a possibility. So we'll see what happens there. But obviously on Monday night, I'll do a quick wrap-up live stream with Chris K. Keep an eye on my Twitter and YouTube to track and follow that. And then Wednesday, I'll be back again with a recap episode like this, going in depth, giving you all the details about what's going on with OU recruiting. So thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on your platform of choice. Don't forget to leave a rating. Please, on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. That helps greatly if you're following us on YouTube. And again, one last pitch. Please visit patreon.com/Sooners360817 or just patreon.com and then look for Sooners 360 to subscribe. That's more recruiting content there. The Patreon account helps me keep this podcast free. So if you enjoy this podcast, please consider giving us a try on Patreon. But that's everything for tonight. Thanks.